Shi Jiao raised his wine cup and said, "Thank you, young Master Chang'e, for coming all the way to the demon world to remind me. I toast to young Master Chang'e." The male lead smiled and responded, "Your Majesty Shi Jiao, no need to be so polite." Then Shi Jiao, without any guard, drank the wine in one gulp, while the male lead just sat there, glancing over, but the giant eel quickly dumped the toxic wine. Shi Jiao asked, "Young Master Chang'e, how is the wine?" The giant eel's mouth trembled and replied, "The taste of this wine must be good, but..." Shi Jiao asked, "But what?" Qing Zhu, standing to the side, thought, "Your Majesty, please don't blame me." Chang'e said, "But your Majesty's tolerance for alcohol seems a bit lacking." Shi Jiao responded, "What nonsense! How could my tolerance be bad?" But soon she felt very dizzy. Her vision also became unclear. The male lead continued smiling and said, "I can see you're having trouble staying steady." Shi Jiao clutched her head, thinking in panic, "No, it's not because of my lifespan. Did I get poisoned?" The male lead asked with concern, "Your Majesty, are you all right?" Shi Jiao turned around, wondering, did he do it? No, was it Jun Bufan? How did he manage it? I'm sure the priority wine was fine. Could it have been mixed with poison? The male lead spoke, "Do you feel unwell, Your Majesty?" Shi Jiao responded, "Young Master Chang Kai, let go of me, I'm fine." Gu Chang Kai said, "It seems you've been poisoned." Shi Jiao replied, "I know, but I can't fall down now." She then collapsed into the male lead's arms. He panicked and said, Hey, don't collapse like this, why fall into my arms?" Shi Jiao weakly said, I don't have the strength." Outside, the Grand Tutor and the King of Heaven saw something was wrong. They both exclaimed, "Her Majesty seems off. What's going on? Her Majesty doesn't look well, something happened. She must have been poisoned, the priority wine is poisonous." Bai Lianer observed from a distance, thinking to herself, could Jun Bufan really succeed? Then the King of Heaven flew over and said, "Everyone surround her, watch for assassins, protect Her Majesty." The crowd became agitated. What assassins? How could there be assassins? What's happening? Quickly, protect Her Majesty. Jun Bufan smiled proudly, thinking, the time has come, Shi Jiao, what you did to me 6,000 years ago. Today I will make you pay for it. Outside, the guards had already rebelled, killing the nearby soldiers and shouting, "Queen Shi Jiao is cruel and vicious, today we will act on behalf of heaven and overthrow her rule." A mysterious figure swiftly passed through, stabbing those guards and shouting, "Kill Shi Jiao." Then more and more mysterious figures appeared around. People panicked and said, "Even the elders of the academy have remnants of the 5 emperors?" Soon, those people broke through the protective circle and charged into the banquet. Jun Bufan stood up and said loudly, "Protect Her Majesty, Your Majesty, don't worry, as long as we are here, no one will get near you." Young Wei shouted, "Bufan, I'll leave the protection of Her Majesty to you, I'll go help over there." Jun Bufan replied, "Young Wei, if you can't handle it, protect yourself and don't push too hard." Above, the King of Heaven, transformed into Susanoo, swung his spear and shouted, "As long as I am here, no one can harm the Queen." Suddenly, an enemy holding 2 giant hammers rushed in quickly and shouted, "King of Heaven, it's me you will fight." It really was just his size. The King of Heaven was struck by the enemy's hammer, revealing the ancestral spiritual power. The crowd screamed in terror, "My God, it's over, the King of Heaven has been knocked away, the enemy has the strength of a quasi-supreme." Gu Chang Kai laughed upon seeing this and said, It seems the Queen will be lucky to survive today. The quasi-supreme is just the appetizer, the truly powerful ones probably haven't shown up yet." Shi Jiao replied, "This is my oversight today, but young Master Chang Kai, you're not surprised because you already guessed someone would come to assassinate me, right? Or are you so casual, or do you have other plans?" The male lead smiled and narrowed his eyes, answering, "Is the Queen joking? I'm no prophet, how could I know everything?" As for other plans, the queen is in danger now, isn't this the perfect time for me to save you? Shi Jiao said, a hero saving a beauty. Young Master Chang Kai really knows how to joke. If you take advantage of this, I've already thanked you. The male lead calmly replied, that's a good idea. While Her Majesty is weak, I'll make my move and force you to repay me. Shi Jiao said nothing and controlled the poison. Wei Bufan glanced at him and thought, still joking with Gu Chang'e even when you're about to die, truly deserving of death. It should be nearly time for Uncle Yi. In the distance, a group of people stood leisurely, observing the battle. A young man spoke, should we go save the emperor? The elderly bearded man replied, let them kill each other. If Shi Jiao dies here, it will be a good thing for our family, just put on a little show. The heavenly king was beaten like a dog, and he looked up in panic, saying, what? This pressure? A young man flew over, shouting, Father, it's a supreme-level expert. The Grand Tutor panicked and said, Yu Wei, retreat. We'll block him. Then the greenish aura rushed toward them, and the Grand Tutor cast a formation to block it. But it was useless, the mysterious person swiftly passed through the formation. He charged toward the banquet and people around whispered, this supreme-level expert has such a terrifying aura, who exactly is this person? Gu Chang'e spoke, the main course has arrived. Shi Jiao sensed something and said, this aura. Wei Bufan smiled brightly and thought, Uncle Yi has finally arrived. The mysterious person drew out a black longsword and said, this little bitch harmed the country, today, I will act on behalf of heaven. I will only kill the leader, no one else will be pursued. Shi Jiao spoke, so it's Yi Yao with the Xianyang heavenly blade. He was once a general under the Xianyang demon. Emperor. I sent people to search for his whereabouts for many years, and I thought he was dead, but... Gu Chang'e chuckled, although many years have passed, he's still loyal. He really should be the doorman. Shi Jiao thought, it seems there's a mastermind behind all of this. I wonder if Wei Bufan will appear. Yi Yao holds the Xianyang heavenly blade, and right now, I can barely stand, let alone summon imperial energy. It seems today. Several palace maids rushed out, shouting, protect the Empress. Protect Her Majesty. Shi Jiao forced herself to stand and said, you all step back, the target is me, it has nothing to do with you. Anyone below supreme level. Even the great sage realm, is just an insect. Staying here will only increase casualties. The palace maid still insisted, saying, Your Majesty, we won't leave. Our lives were given by you, how can we abandon you? No. We are willing to live and die with Her Majesty. Yes, even if we go to another world, we will stay by your side. Yi Yao glared and said, it's only been 6,000 years, and so many people have been fooled by you. If that's the case, I won't leave a single one of Shi Jiao's lackeys alive. They must all die. Shi Jiao looked at the male protagonist and said, Chang'e, what you mentioned before, I will consider carefully, but now, trouble. Gu Chang'e smiled confidently and said, Your Majesty Shi Jiao, you're being too polite. Actually, what I like most is to draw my sword and help. Yi Yao heard this and said, Gu Chang'e, this is a matter of the demon realm, you're an outsider. I advise you not to interfere. I don't want to kill you, but if you think you can do whatever you want just because you're from the Changxing family, then don't blame me. After that, Yi Yao unleashed a tremendous force, creating a powerful magnetic field that made everyone in the banquet room struggle to breathe. Gu Chang'e was not to be outdone, and after unleashing his own power to protect himself, he advanced and responded. That's right, I'm just an outsider, I didn't want to interfere in the demon realm's matters, but... As soon as he finished speaking, the male protagonist released his power, reflecting Yi Yao's green aura back at him. He then continued, in the future, Shi Jiao will be mine. If you dare touch her in front of me, aren't you courting death? Yi Yao angrily swung his sword and shouted, arrogant. Gu Chang'e, today I will kill Shi Jiao. This is your last chance, get lost now, or I will get angry. The male protagonist fearlessly rushed forward, confidently saying, "I've already said, you cannot touch Shijiao. If you seal your cultivation and kneel to beg for mercy now, maybe I will spare your life." Yi Yao, hearing this, furiously shouted, "Gu Chang'e, you really want to die?" Jun Bufan, who was still below, thought, "Uncle Yi really seems angry. Gu Chang'e, you've brought this on yourself." Gu Chang'e laughed and replied, "Ha ha ha. Stop talking nonsense, old man. Are you not afraid that my Gu family will crush your family into the ground?" After that, the male lead raised his hand and shot a sword forward. Upon seeing this, Yi Yao was extremely surprised. Then he shouted, "You little brat, you dare to strike first." After saying that, Yi Yao began to gather his energy and swung his sword fiercely at the male lead. When the sword energy slashed toward the male lead, his sword energy was shattered. Gu Chang'e stared in shock, his eyes wide, and blurted out, "The resonance of the great Tao." Although Yi Yao's strike was immensely powerful, it still couldn't touch a single hair on the male lead's body. Shi Jiao, who was below, shouted anxiously, "Young Master Gu Chang'e, be careful. This is bad. The power from his Xianyang heavenly blade has already reached the resonance of the Emperor Realm's great Tao, and the sound waves of his magical energy are shaking the heavens and earth." The palace maids nearby could only scream, holding their heads. One of them said, "Your Majesty, it seems that young Master Gu Chang'e is more at risk than lucky this time." Yi Yao's strike not only created shockwaves but also spread outside, causing everyone to cover their heads and ears, their faces filled with pain. Those with weaker cultivation were directly struck and vomited blood. Jun Bufan, seeing this scene, grinned with pride and said, "Even if your identity is noble and your power is immense, this strike is enough to kill you 10 times over." However, when he saw something, his expression immediately turned to one of surprise. Through the hazy mist, a brilliant pillar with a pattern appeared in front of him. It turned out that the male lead had used the heavenly tower palm for protection. Gu Chang'e stood inside it and shouted, "What are you chopping at? It's so weak. Haven't you eaten? This move feels like scratching an itch." Emperor Realm? How strange. Yi Yao looked at this in horror and shouted, This is the legendary heavenly tower palm. How could it be in your hands?" Shi Jiao also said in shock, "So the heavenly tower palm has already fallen into his hands. How many more moves is he hiding?" Gu Chang'e stood there, holding the heavenly tower palm like a boss. Yi Yao began to feel anxious, thinking, if this continues, it will be very hard for me to get close to Shi Jiao. Looks like I'll have to go and hold him off myself, and let the others deal with Shi Jiao. Then he transmitted his voice to Jun Bufan, saying, "I'll hold off Gu Chang'e. You all find a chance to get close and kill Shi Jiao." Jun Bufan replied, "Understood. Uncle Yi, be careful." However, because of the system in his body, Gu Chang'e heard everything clearly. The male lead glanced down and thought, "Damn it, these two idiots dare to conspire in front of me. They're really bold." The male lead then used the heavenly tower palm to strike at Yi Yao, shouting, "That dog, how distracted, go to hell." Yi Yao smiled and blocked with his sword, then activated a barrier and said, "Gu Chang'e, come with me." After saying that, Yi Yao pulled Gu Chang'e into the barrier and they disappeared. The people below shouted in panic, "This is bad, young Master Gu Chang'e has been taken. Protect Her Majesty the Empress." Suddenly, 2 golden-armored guards flew over, shouting, "Protect Her Majesty the Empress." Jun Bufan glanced behind and thought, now that Ji Yao's cultivation has been sealed, and the palace maids have ordinary cultivation, there's nothing to worry about. Looks like it's time to act. "Ji Yao, do you know how long I've been waiting for this day?" Suddenly, the golden-armored guards on both sides swung their swords and lunged at Shi Jiao. They were clearly disguised as Jun Bufan's people. When the 2 guards rushed up, 2 geniuses flew out and mercilessly beat them up. One of them said proudly, "Your Majesty, we are here to protect you," arranged by young Master Qinggu. Shi Jiao thought in panic, has even the Imperial Guard been infiltrated? Jun Bufan, seeing his plan disrupted, stood there trembling with anger. Inside the barrier, Qinggu spoke, damn it, this stinky dog, did you bring me here so far just to delay me? Unfortunately, you miscalculated. Han Yao widened his eyes and replied, Qinggu, have you always been so boastful? You don't even know that, although you have the heavenly tower, I also possess the Emperor's treasure. The male lead waved his hand loudly and said, using a magic tool is just to cover up, I don't want the world to be shaken. The male lead then took out the family heirloom spear, with black energy swirling around. At this moment, Han Yao realized what fear was, and he said in terror, what? This cold aura, are you the successor of demonic arts? Qinggu grinned and said, it's not time to reveal it yet, come on, stinky dog. Suddenly, the long sword in Han Yao's hand began to tremble violently. Han Yao lowered his head in fear and thought, what's going on, the Xianyang heavenly sword is actually afraid. How is this possible? Qinggu sneered and continued, this weapon is not bad, I'll take it back for Ming Kong to play with, she'll definitely like it. Han Yao focused his gaze on the male lead, and in this moment, he no longer dared to underestimate his enemy. Then, Han Yao shouted loudly, so what if you're the successor of demonic arts? Do you think you'll definitely win? With that, he released a powerful aura from his body. Han Yao then swung his sword at the male lead without hesitation, while Qinggu simply stood there calmly and said, what do you think? After speaking, Qinggu conjured a giant hand, which quickly grabbed toward Han Yao. Outside, a maid ran over to report, Your Majesty, I've passed the orders to the army in the palace, they will be here soon. Shi Jiao looked up at the sky and thought, it seems I've made a mistake, because the body in Jun Bufan's tomb disappeared, I thought. He was faking his death. Now, is he just hiding somewhere? But what if this is the way he intentionally led me to doubt? Maybe he already died, but before the Xianyang evil emperor disappeared, his soul was reborn. He's now reincarnated with the old memories. So I still can't find him. The Xianyang heavenly sword has appeared, how could Jun Bufan not be here? Where is he hiding? Ahead, Jun Bufan and his subordinates were still engaged in a fight. One of his subordinates, dressed in white, asked via voice transmission, Young Master, what should we do now? Jun Bufan replied, retreat. Uncle Han has been gone for too long, he must have run into trouble. The main force is almost here, we can't delay any longer. Then Jun Bufan's subordinates began to flee one by one. In the distance, Yu Wei spoke, Father, they've retreated. The Grand Tutor replied, yes, this time it's really thanks to young Master Qinggu. Jun Bufan glanced back and thought, Qing, I can only apologize to you. Yu Wei flew toward Shi Jiao and then said, Your Majesty, the assassins have all escaped. The surrounding maid started to discuss, that was a real shock, luckily young Master Qinggu held Han Yao back, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. That's an imperial weapon, who knows who poisoned the Empress? They deserve to die. If the Empress were at her peak, she wouldn't have been afraid of Han Yao. Shi Jiao seemed to sense something, she looked back at Qing, the personal maid who hadn't made a move. She stood there, lost in thought, Jun Bufan, don't worry, I won't betray you. Suddenly, a spatial crack appeared above. The person who walked out was none other than the leader, Gu Chang'e. The geniuses saw this and cheered, shouting, that's young Master Chang'e, he's back. Did he defeat the night demon? Is that an existence of the highest order? The male lead only smiled slightly, with an evil glint. He then jumped down and said, after all, the opponent is the night demon, who wreaked havoc in the demon realm 6,000 years ago. Now, with the Xianyang heavenly blade in hand, it's like adding wings to a tiger. I fought him for over 100 rounds, but then, I don't know what news he heard, and he suddenly ran away. Such a pity. I didn't chase him too far out of concern for this place. Thankfully, you're safe, and I believe the assassins have all run away. Shi Jiao awkwardly said, thank you, young Master Chang'e, and thanks for your help. This queen is